Good evening and welcome to the Formula Racing League Assetto Corsa Competizione. Round 6 of the Taco Tuesday series takes us to the circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, as we enter the second half of the championship. Tom Cairns, your commentator, giving you the details for tonight's action as we watch the drivers complete their laps during this practice session, and as the drivers get ready for another round to continuing their scoring runs for the season. A lot of the drivers within the Formula Racing League are in mourning of the passing of Chris Jones, who had sadly died less than 24 hours ago. And drivers are paying tribute to him with running black and white liveries on their cars, including Busov, who is currently fastest in this practice session so far. And we've also got David Jr. as well, running a white and black livery, as is MGK. I wouldn't be at all surprised if all the drivers will be doing that. And not only we are seeing drivers paying tribute with black and white liveries, in between practice and qualifying there'll be a 4-minute session where there will be a lap of honour being led by the admins for this tier. So we should expect to see Will Freeman, Hutchison and Robinson leading the pack round the circuit from pit lane all the way round at a speed limit of 50 miles an hour, and leading them back into the pit lane before qualifying commences. For Chris Jones, was a fierce competitor, a very wonderful gentleman to a lot of people's eyes, certainly within the league racing community. The reigning PS4 Taco Tuesday champion from last season. Finished runner-up as well the 2 seasons before. Very consistent driver. Competed 3 races this season in Tier 1. 20th at the Hungaroring, 9th at Suzuka, and 22nd at Silverstone. Silverstone was the last appearance for him in Taco Tuesday. That was 3 weeks ago. And we sadly saw the last time from him. It's a very, very sad loss. I'm sure the drivers will never forget him in the slightest. He was a very, very brilliant gentleman. And he'll be sincerely missed by all, including his friends and his family. And his teammate this season, Will Freeman, is carrying a tribute to him. I'm sure he'll do his best to perform well for his ex-teammate. He was teammates with him this season. But Will Freeman is a sole representative for the team that he is part of. I'm sure he'll do his best in his honour for Chris. So as we watch the minutes tick down, we'll touch on what happened last week at Paul Ricard. It was Law that came out in the end. There he is in your picture. Over Morex. The 2 drivers dicing for the lead all the way through the 1-hour event. And it was Law who took his first win of the season to get his championship back on track, up to 7th place in the Drivers' Championship. Can he continue that form here? With Rapid Duck, after finishing in 5th place, he's still leading the way by a brilliant margin of 61 points over Moritz, who is up to 2nd by finishing runner-up at Paul Ricard. Will Freeman up there in third place as well, with Ray Thomas, who is one of those not around this evening. Fighter also not around, as is P. David. Not able to turn up. We do have reserve drivers in for tonight, including Drifter, Brandon Glover as well, being called in. Drifter has already competed this season in the last couple of rounds, and Glover has already made a couple of appearances this season also. He's in the Jaguar tonight, is Glover, so he'll be one to look out for most certainly. Given it's round 6 here at Barcelona, it's a 90-minute event instead of 60 as normal, which will include 2 mandatory pit stops. So it'll be a hard-fought race, or a long race for the drivers. The second of the 3 special rounds, we had one at Silverstone. The second one is here. And the last one will be at the season finale at Imola. Before that, we go to Alton Park, Watkins Glen and Spa before the season concludes at Imola on March the 21st. I've just been told that Drifter has chosen to join the lobby just to do the lap of remembrance for Chris Jones, as Jay Brooker has informed me. So thank you for filling me in on that, Jay. So Drifter's he's not going to be racing. He'll be joining in the lap of honour for Chris, who was a splendid driver and a popular figure within the FRL for a good few years. And we all miss him for absolutely sure. Feel free to get involved in the live chat if you ever wish to do so. Do feel free to pay your tribute as Law goes off the racetrack. Has a little kiss with the barrier, but nothing too much more than that. Busov going to the top with 1:43.9. It's a very competitive time there from Busov, who came home on the podium at Paul Ricard after switching cars from previous weeks, which meant that his score was reset before Paul Ricard, but he was able to make up for that by collecting 36 points for finishing third. Can he carry that form into here? And Vodka coming in with his tribute to Chris, who I'm sure he would have felt we've had some good battles with him during his time in the FRL. Vodka, who's currently 13th at the moment in this practice session, with 6 minutes to go. So we should expect to see 25 drivers in the lobby for tonight. So dim adjuster around in the last corner. Is this going to be improving in lap time? It's not on this occasion. Mikowski's coming round though in the Aston Martin. And he doesn't quite go up the order either. So Evans Jr. goes up to second place now. The track is becoming more grippy. Now there's Lewis Robinson, who I don't think had the best of times at Paul Ricard. He wasn't even around actually for that, for whatever reason. So he's left himself with some work to do. He's not really in the championship fight, but he could still finish second if he can put together a run of form between now and the end of the campaign. Now I will mention that out of the 10 races, only a driver's 9 best results will count towards the Drivers' Championship. So the fact that Lewis Robinson has missed 1 race already, it's pretty academic that he knows that he will not need to drop any points at the end of the season. It's the same with the other drivers who have either missed a race or has failed to finish a race. Marcel Prentice running in 17th position. And he made it to the end in 16th position. His teammate wasn't around that evening though. And that's the Ferrari going off track and running wide. He was able to rejoin as Freeman goes up to 3rd place now in the Audi. Had a tough time of it at Paul Ricard last week, only 13th in the end after qualifying way down the order in 20th. Bearing in mind we only had 22 drivers competing last week. I would say this is a track where Will Freeman tends to thrive on. Now, last season in the PlayStation 4 category, well, Barcelona wasn't on the calendar in the previous campaign. But given it's one of those old school racetracks, I would expect Freeman to excel here, unlike at Paul Ricard last week. Makovsky and Aston Martin doesn't go up the order on this occasion. Well, there's Frank, another one of those paying tribute to Chris with his livery there. And Drifter going up to 19th position. As Mertens in 21st with Glover, Blair and Jay Prentice in the mix. We're into the last minute of this practice session now, as drivers look to get ready. A lot of drivers are in the pits at the moment, including Law. And Busov is out on circuit. And Aldori stops there and he's come back to the pit lane. There's MGK, who's coming up behind what looks like dim adjuster. And Frank has gone up to 7th place now. As Dim tries to get over the line before the checker flag falls. I think he can, although he has taken the checker flag actually, according to the timing pages. There's Rui, who's coming through. Wasn't around last week. He wasn't around the week before either, so he's left himself with some catching up to do. And he goes over the line in 18th position. Robinson, who's in 19th, slowed right down, so we should expect to see him back in the pits. And Merton's taken to the old configuration before hitting the barrier. Glover coming round as well. No improvement from him. Blair and Jay Prentice down the order, but that's not important right now. There's Jay Prentice coming through in the Mercedes AMG. And he's had a change of car by the looks of it, so he could well be losing his points from the previous rounds. And now the drivers are heading out on circuit to do their lap of honour in memory of Chris Jones, the reigning Taco Tuesday champion in the PS4 category in the FRL. He was a runner-up as well the 2 seasons before that. And so Hutchison on circuit now. The drivers will go into their rows of 2. They'll stick to a speed limit of 50 miles an hour. Chris Jones was a lovely man. Many of the drivers admired his tenacity as a league racer. A very, very sporting chap who would be willing to help out at any time. Taken far too soon. And our condolences go out to all his friends and family in this difficult time. He will never ever be forgotten. As the drivers pay their respects in more ways than one, with the black and white liveries from a lot of them. With their lap of honours, their tributes that are being sent on the Discord servers and perhaps all over the internet as well. Chris Jones, rest in peace. Now I'll leave you with the lap of honour, and I'll come back to the microphone when qualifying begins. A fitting tribute to Chris Jones. And I'm sure he'll be watching from above. And I'm sure he'll appreciate the respect that the FRL has put on for him. The show must go on though. As the drivers begin qualifying, going for pole position. Hutchinson in need of a good result to keep his realistic hopes of finishing second on track. Now, what can the BMW driver do on this occasion as he looks to begin his first flying lap? Just a few drivers in the pits at the moment. Here we go then with Hutchinson, who begins his lap right now and heading towards the first corner of this Barcelona circuit. Through the winding bends of turn 3, a long sweeping right-hander before he gets the hairpin of turn 4. And now down the hill to another hairpin of 5. Here's a kink of 6 before you brake for the left-hander of turn 7, and then another quick right of turn 8, and then up the hill again to turn 9 onto the back straight, and they're heading towards turn 10, sharp left-hander, which will take you to 11, and then the hairpin of 12. Got a right-hander of 13 that leads to the chicane that isn't particularly popular to the drivers. They would much rather see it not be used and just use a more blunt right-hander that takes you to another right-hander, leading you onto the pit straight to complete a lap of this 4.6 kilometre racetrack here in Barcelona in Spain. Here's Hutchinson then, is about to post the first time, it's a 1:45.4, but Andy beats that by 6/10 to go to provisional pole. Law on the front row by going second with a 1:45.0. Busov now goes fastest with a 1:44.3. Vodka goes onto the front row. Davis Jr. 4th as well. Frank up to 7th, ahead of El Prentice and Palermo as well. Palermo with an uncompetitive lap time, it has to be said, by his standards, so he's got some work to do. How are the other drivers doing? Well, Dim Adjuster is going through the final chicane. And Glover goes 11th, well off the pace at the moment. Robinson goes 10th, whilst Dim Adjuster makes his way up to 5th. Got the 500 coming round as well, that is Clay. So he's going to move into the top 10. He is, and he's up to 3rd place, just a quarter of a second off the fastest time. We've got the 911 of Rui coming through in the Mercedes AMG. And so this lap of his is not going to count. We've got the 152 coming through now, which will be Blair. This should be his first lap time. It's not. I wonder if that might have been his out lap, actually, thinking of it. We've got Hutchinson crossing over the line to complete his lap. second lap time. He's in 9th place. Got the 3-2-1 coming through as well. That is Frank, who's now up to 6th place. And he's been pushed further down because Busov, I think, has gone further clear. Davis Jr. up to 2nd. Andy 3rd. Law 4th. Had a Vodka, Clay, Frank, Aldori, Dimitrasta and Pusbisil. Got Will Freeman, who's one of those yet to post a lap time as we speak. He ran wide there at the penultimate corner there on the exit of the chicane, so I wonder if this lap is actually going to count. It is going to count, and he's gone onto the front row, so Freeman has found some time on that lap. Just 4 drivers have yet to post a lap time. MGK, Blair, Rui and Moggs are those drivers. Rui's gone through the chicane now. He's going into the pits. Now Blair into turns 15 and 16. And he's gone up to 18th place. As we look at Moggs, go through turn 13. We've got Law, who's moved up to 4th now. Mikoski up to 3rd place. And MGK's gone 2nd. So MGK rekindling a little bit of form that's been missing from him in the last few rounds. He's done well to get himself onto the front row. Morris is in 12th place, last week's runner-up. Moggs goes up to 3rd place now. So it's Busov who's still fastest out of everyone and is on provisional pole. We've got the 690 coming through as well, which is Glover. He doesn't quite move up the order. Moritz goes fastest though, 1:43.9, the first driver to break into the 1 minute 43s. So beginning to see the pace from the usual suspects. And Clay is in 9th position now. Half a second separated in the top 10 with 6.5 minutes to go. Rui's the only driver yet to post a lap time. He's out on circuit now, so I think he's on his out lap as we speak, so he's got some work to do from here. Got the 152 going through the last corner, which is Blair. And Blair does not improve his time, so he stays where he is. Got the 22 of Hutchinson going over the line, and he's not moved up the order really, has he? He's down in 16th place. And number 17, he's about to cross over the line now as well, which is Palermo, and he moves up the order slightly up to 18th place. It was a big chunk of time that he found, but only moved up 1 place. There's still time yet. Got the 217 heading over the line. That'll be Mikowski, who did not improve. We've got the 690 of Glover, 2.4 seconds off the pace so far. Manages to cut that down to 1.9. He moves up a place into 20th. The 16 of Andy going over the line, and it's not an improvement, I should say. Will Freeman does not improve either. 303 of Davis Jr., who stays in 8th. Got the 95 of Busov, who's determined to get back. Provisional pole, doesn't do it on this occasion. And Dimitrasta, who's a whole second behind, has not improved on this occasion. Here's Moggs in the Ferrari. What can he conjure up here? Nothing. Now Rui is on a flying lap. Down the back straight he comes. And we've got 4 minutes to go, and it's still anyone's game for pole position really at the moment. Now Rui's best qualifying this season so far has been 16th, and that came in the opening 2 rounds of the season. And he's about to head over the line now, as this is his first time of the session. It is. It's a 1:45.8 as Beeman goes P2. He's definitely improving, and Busov is going through the last turn now in the Audi. And he goes fastest. So Busov fastest by less than a tenth over Morex, who is going through turn 3 on a lap. MGK stays 4th. Vodka is going through turn 13. He's behind what looks like the 690 of Glover. Glover runs wide there. Don't think Vodka is going to get held up on this occasion, but he does run wide on the sausage curb on the outside, which won't help. And Vodka goes up to 3rd with that lap. So had he not run wide there on the exit of turn 15, he would have gone quicker. Got the 43 heading over the line. That is L Prentice, who does not improve. Got the 678 next, which is J Prentice. Stays in 22nd place. Got the 34 coming through, which is Pafizzle. And he moved up the order massively up to P7. 4 tenths off the pace. So we're beginning to see the expected pace from what we've seen in previous rounds from Pafizzle. He's had a good first half of the season. Got the 911 of Rui up to 16th now. Freeman, 4th fastest. Can he move up the order from here? No, he can't. So he's got one more shot at it. Got the 99 of Moritz coming through. He does not improve either, but he's got one more chance. Got the 95 of Busov, who doesn't improve either, so he's got one more opportunity to have a go. And it looks like Vuvka has moved up to... Oh no, it's MGK who's moved up to 3rd place now in the Ferrari. We've got Moggs next, who does not improve. So the drivers are beginning to find some more time. Lord needs to find an improvement. He doesn't. He'll have one more go at it. For the 152 of Blur next. 2.3 seconds off the pace, and he stays 2.3 seconds off the pace. Now we've got the number 15 going through, which is Aldori, who's currently in 15th place. And now we've got the 678 next behind, which is Jay Prentice, who does not improve, and he stays in P22. Got the 34 of Fizzle, who does not improve. Got the 217 next behind, which is Makovsky, who gets over the line before the checker flag falls, so he'll have one more go at it. And the checker flag has fallen now, so these are the last lap times coming through. Mertens goes up to 20th. Rui's now up to 14th place. Andy stays 10th. Got the 99 coming through, which is Morex. Can he get back pole position here? He cannot. He could still be on the front row though. Got the 95 of Busov coming through. No improvement either. MGK next. And he's got provisional pole. So MGK managed to find some time on that last effort. It's looking good for him. What about Moggs? Can he improve? Can he move up the order? He improved his time ever so slightly, but it's no change in position. We've got the number 15 of Aldori, who's in 16th place, needing to find an improvement to move him up the order. Just got 3 cars out on circuit at the moment. Can Aldori move up the order here? He moves up to 4th, so he's on to the second row. So from 16th to 4th, he's leapt. Got the 6, 7, 8 next behind, which is Jay Prentice, who's ducked into the pits. So we've got the number 35 for Fizzle, who's also entering the pits, and he's not going to improve either. So MGK is on pole position here in Barcelona for the 90-minute special in Taco Tuesday Tier 1. Busov will be happy with his second place, ahead of Morex and Aldori are on the second row. Vodka and Davis Jr. are on row 3, ahead of Freeman and Moggs. Vizzle and Mikowski running up the top 10. We've got Andy and Law next behind. Law will be very disappointed with his qualifying position. Dimajuster and Clay are 13th and 14th, ahead of Rui and Frank. Then we've got 2 of the admins in the FRL, Robinson and Hutchison, teammates of course, in 17th and 18th. Palermo and Mertens are 19th and 20th, of L. Prentice and Brandon Glover, with Jay Prentice and Blair rounding out the 24 drivers. I've just seen that Drifter's been... it seems like he's been called in there, but I don't think he's actually going to take part in the race. That'll be a glitch or so within the game itself. We've got 24 drivers in the lobby now, rowing to go. We've got a few more minutes before the formation lap begins. So Dimajuster seems to have a fan on his side. Welcome to you. We are hoping for a clean start here at the Circuit de Barcelona de Catalunya. First opened in 1991, in time for its first Grand Prix that was held that year, of which Nigel Mansell came out on top in to keep his hopes for the championship alive with that and Senna. Circuit has undergone some changes over the years as well. Most of it has stuck around. Things like the chicane after turn 9 had been removed, and there's been changes obviously to the sort of turn 10 and 11 section. And of course we had the introduction of chicane, of the final chicane in 2007. But I have seen sort of rumours that they're trying to get the configuration without the chicane homologated for Formula 1 so that they can use it. They do use it for MotoGP. It's just whether Barcelona will be able to get that homologated with the FIA so that Formula 1 can race without that unpopular chicane. So a reminder that it's a 90-minute special with 2 mandatory pit stops included. The drivers can take their pit stops anytime they like, providing they complete them before the final minute of the race. So we'll be going around on a formation lap and then a rolling start to begin this race, as always. We've got less than a minute to go now, so feel free to get your questions in for me to answer. If you have anything you want me to discuss. And I mentioned the team's championship as well. The team leading the way are TK Rex Motorsport, which have Morix and Bavissel as their two drivers. They are only 2 points clear actually of Law and Ray, the Pro Motion Motorsport team, and another 15 points back is the Tuga Racing team, of which Rapidoc and Rui are part of. And talking of which, I don't think Rapidoc is actually competing tonight, by the looks of it, so he could well have his championship gap being reduced. Having said that, at the end of the season, only a driver's 9 best results count out of 10. So the drivers begin their formation lap. So we'll run down the grid for the race in case any of you have just joined. MGK on pole position for the first time this season, with Busov alongside him on the front row. Then we've got Morix and Aldori on row 2, followed by Vodka and Davis Jr. on the third row, with Freeman, Moggs, Bavissel and Makovsky rounding out the top 10. We've got Andy and Law next up, with Dim Adjuster and Clay on row 7. Then we've got Rui and Frank on the 8th row, with the two BMWs of Robinson and Hutchison on row 9. Palermo and Mertens in 19th and 20th, with El Princess and Brandon Glover in 21st and 22nd places respectively, with Jay Princess and Blair rounding off the grid. Glover is the only reserve driver in this evening, so keep an eye out on him to see how he gets on. So air temperature of 18 degrees with a track temperature of 23 degrees Celsius. This is round 6 of the Taco Tuesday series. And in case you weren't here about 20 minutes or so ago, the drivers did a lap of honour in remembrance of Chris Jones, otherwise known as Essa on his gamer tag, who had sadly passed away last night. And we send our thoughts over to his family and friends, and to everyone that knew him very well within the FRL and the league racing community. He will be sincerely missed by all. I'm sure he's watching from above. The drivers showing off their black and white liveries in comparison to what they normally would run. So the drivers are beginning to form back into their rows of 2. So MGK and Busov will line up alongside each other. It doesn't appear to be like anyone is starting from the pit lane. And in terms of number of laps, we should expect to see, I would say, looking around about 52 or 53 laps. So the finish line is the first line that the drivers run over, which will determine the start of the race. So drivers just got to be careful not to go too early, as we have seen drive-throughs being given in the past. The green flag is shown right now, and the drivers are away. Busov seems to have got the better start over MGK, and he's in front before they even get to turn 1. So we've got Busov in front then in the outing, with MGK having to give chase. So we've got Moritz in the 99 Mercedes AMG up the inside of him into turn 1, and Moritz is through and up into P2. So MGK down from pole to 3rd. We've got Aldori up there in 4th position, with Vodka seemingly dropping back, although Aldori is actually behind Vodka. So Vodka's got the jump on Aldori. Davis Jr. looks like he's dropped back a little bit. So you see the drivers go through the sector times, and we should see the positions update themselves. And it seems to be like everyone's got through there without too much incident. And I think Andy's dropped back horribly there at the beginning, so he's got some work to do. So we've got Busov leading then, with Aldori up there in 2nd place, MGK 3rd, Vodka 4th, then we've got Moritz in 5th position. So I was incorrect in terms of the position, with Aldori getting in front of MGK. It's him who's up to P2 from 4th on the grid. We've got Moggs in 6th place, with Freeman, Davis Jr., Provisional and Law rounding out the top 10. Law making up a couple of positions so far in the Mercedes AMG, but there's a long way to go yet. And Hutchison is well down the order, actually. He must have had a bit of a coming together with someone, in contrast to his teammate, who's made up a few positions. It's Busov who's coming around to complete the first lap in the lead over Aldori. So 2 Audis, 1 and 2. And we've got a couple of drivers ducking into the pits already. They feel that they want to get their first mandatory pit stops done out of the way. They are Vodka and Friedman. So those two making the switch already onto either another set of tyres or putting some more fuel in. And it looks like Robinson's in as well. So Robinson getting his first stop done and out of the way. And we've got the 16 in as well, which is Andy. And Jay Prentice is also in. So we've got 5 drivers in at the end of the first lap to get their first stops done out of the way. The pit window does open a minute after the race has started. So it's just before the end of lap 1 when they are allowed to do that. We could even see drivers getting their 2 pit stops done early on and not have to worry about coming in again. But the disadvantage of that is wearing out your tyres towards the end. It's not an ideal scenario to have. We've got Busov leading then, with Aldori ahead of MGK and Moritz. We've got a 30-second stop-and-go penalty for Will Freeman. And that's a bad blow there for the driver who came into this round 3rd place in the championship. He needs a strong result tonight to get back in the hunt for the race of the title. And it's not got off to a good start for him, unfortunately. He's got his first mandatory pit stop done at least, but he's going to be well out of sync with the leaders by the time that stop-and-go penalty is done. So there's your top 4. Now, is any more drivers ducking into the pits? Or are there any more drivers ducking into the pits? It doesn't seem to be like they are. We've got the 22 of Hutchison now in. And the 3-2-1 of Frank. And we've got the 690 of Glover also taking time out already after 2 laps. So the driver's wasting no time getting their stops done now. As we watch further behind us, MGK looks to defend his 3rd place from Moritz. Moggs has set the fastest up of the race so far in the Ferrari. And Busov ahead of Aldori. Come through the right-hander of turn 9. And Freeman is back in the pits to get his stop-and-go penalty done and out of the way. And he'll be down a lap on the leaders by the time they get round. And we're 5 minutes into this race now, as the drivers are coming towards the end of their third lap. We've got MGK right on the tail of Aldori. There's a piece of debris on the circuit. I can't tell what that is. It may just be a piece of, like, a bollard or something like that, but it's hard to tell from the angle I can see. And Freeman has done his stop and go penalty now. He's down in last place. We're watching a battle going on between the 6, 7, 8 and the 16 of Andy, fighting over what is now 22nd place. We've got the leaders coming up behind them shortly, so they just need to be careful not to get in the way of them. Busov protecting his lead. Aldori doing a fine job so far in the Audi. He could do with a strong result here tonight. And Busov. Oh, he's made a mistake though. Busov, and Aldori has got ahead of him. So Aldori takes the lead of the race after Busov's error at turn 13. But Busov may fight back on the pit straight. Here we go then, into the slipstream he goes. Now ahead of him. It looks like Jay Prentice is ahead of these guys, but he needs to be very careful. He goes to the runoff area, which is very wise of him. So it's Aldori who's in the lead now ahead of Busov. It's MGK who's just lost position to Morex by running wide slightly, so that's him down a place. So the top four, as Moggs looks to get past MGK as well. Around the outside into turn 5. Doesn't go for it, but we are seeing Moritz go for it on Busov now for second place, but they come together now, and Busov's all the way round, and Moritz may have the book thrown at him for that. Both have lost time and places, and Busov will not be very happy with Moritz one bit. So MGK is back into P2 now. Moggs is in third, Davis Jr. is in fourth, and Pavizel is in 5th position, and Busov and Moritz are down to 6th and 7th. So there may be a penalty coming either driver's way, or it may just go down as a racing incident. It's been a competitive race so far, and it's still early days. So it's a 1.7 second margin that Aldori has over MGK now, so he's got a bit of a buffer behind. And we've got Moritz having to defend from dim adjuster at the end of that pit straight. We've got Plate ahead of Lowell, Mikoski and L. Prentice, who's doing a solid job so far in the Ferrari. And ahead of Rui and Blair and Palermo. So we've got a long way to go yet. As Eldari continues to lead with MGK closing a little bit. Moggs, Davis Jr., Provisional, Busov and Moritz. Adjuster trying to get past the Mercedes AMG. Clayton Law in 9th and 10th. A 1.4 second gap, so MGK is closing down the gap all the time. And it's now 1.3 second gap. So he's clawing back the gap after being on pole earlier on. And that's just trying to see who that was there, was just staying out of the way. That may have been Jay Prentice. No, so it's Andy who was moving out of the way. A long way to go yet in this race. I'm just thinking about the championship as well, because with Rapid Duck missing, his gap at the top is going to be coming down, with Moritz potentially picking up as many as 28 championship points. And we've got Dimijoster as well. Well, Dimijoster's outside the top 10 in the standings. Vodka is having a... Well, I was going to say he was having a decent race so far, but he was one of those that made an early pit stop, so he's using the clear track ahead of him to claw back the gap, so he could well perform an undercut. He may have a part to play in this race. So Ray Thomas is also not around tonight. He's not going to be scoring. Friedman's well down the order. He's not going to be scoring highly either. So it's likely to be Moritz who will lead this race in P2. As it stands, with him in 7th place. The gap will be cut down to just 33 points. Although if MGK was to finish 2nd, it would move on to 143 because he got the point for the pole position. It'll be 42 points off the top. So Moritz will be in P2 and MGK in P3. And Eldori, who's running in the lead right now, would move on to 50 points. Because if you remember, he had his points before Paul Ricard expunged because he had changed his vehicle. So the gap has come down to half a second now between Eldori and MGK. 14 minutes of this race gone now. And the battle for the win is very much on. And Moggs is under pressure from Davis Jr. as they come down the pit straight. There's not going to be a way through yet for Davis Jr., so he stays behind for the time being. But Bizzle is keeping his nose clean. He's in 5th place. Moritz is ahead of Busov now, who's under threat from Dimijoster. Just trying to find a way through. MGK taking pole position earlier on. Become the 6th different pole sitter in Tier 1 this season to take pole. You get a championship point for finishing, for getting pole position. 40 points for a race win, 38 for second, 36 for third. It's a 2-point difference between each position from the race winning position to being 11th, and then from 11th to 30th it's a 1-point difference. So if Will Freeman was to finish 24th in this race, he'll collect only 7 championship points. Now we watch the battle for the lead again as Aldari looks to fend off MGK as they go through the last turn together now to begin lap number 10. MGK can get into the slipstream of the Audi ahead. He can, but he's not close enough to have a go just yet. Now, they don't want to be fighting too much, these two, because otherwise the pack behind will close in more. And then you've got to consider all those that pitted at the end of lap 1 or lap 2. They could perform an undercut. So Moggs in 3rd place out of Devers Jr. Close behind with Pavizel and Morex in 5th and 6th. Dimajust has got past Busov now and into 8th place. Law, who's trying to make up ground, is in 9th. Oh, you see a driver, that's Mikowski running wide. Just carried too much speed when he was backing with Clay. And Mikowski will return to the racetrack in P11 without any harm. And MGK, who holds the fast lap of the race so far. There's no point for the fastest lap, but of course it can help you in your pursuit in catching someone. Oh, that's a mistake there from Aldari. And what's happened? Has he deactivated the ignition button? Well, either way, he's lost the race lead to MGK. Now, will he get that car going again? He's down to 2nd place now. MGK is back in the lead. Moggs in 2nd place. Aldari's going nowhere. I don't know what's happened. Rui has come into the pits to get his first stop done. But Aldari, after all that hard work, I don't know if he's had a disconnection or something with his controller or whatever. I think he's got it going now though. But he's dropped all the way down to 15th place. Well, 16th rather, because Vuvka's already gone through. MGK in the lead by 3.5 seconds over Moggs, who's now in 2nd place. Davis Jr. had a Brazil with Moritz back up to 5th. And Laura's got past Busov now for 7th place. Plate's right up behind Busov, who I think will have suffered damage after the contact between him and Moritz. You can see the car sliding around. That does not look like a car that has confidence. Francis in the 11th position ahead of Blair. I think Looking at where the drivers are, we've got the 43 there, and I'm struggling to recognise who that is behind. That'll be Will Freeman, I think, who's unlapping himself. So Freeman trying to make up for lost time. Al Prince is having a fine race so far in P11. It's a long way to go yet in this race. We're on lap 12. I think in terms of number of laps, we are expecting around about 55 laps, I would say, approx. Given we've had 20 minutes so far. Probably around about 50 if I'm honest with you, but we'll see. It's so far so good for MGK. He's had a lot of fortune go his way so far in this race. It's just not do anything silly or make any mistakes. Just keep the car pointing the right way. And Law is coming up behind dim adjuster now. These two fighting over 6th place. Mikowski and El Prentice in there. Blair 12th, Palermo 13th. We haven't seen much from him this evening. Mertens just running his own race there in 14th. With Vodka 7.5 seconds behind him. We have no one in the pits at the moment. Moggs, Davis Jr. for Bissell, ahead of Moritz, dim adjuster, Law, Busov, Plate and Mikowski. That's your top 10 at the moment as we speak. Now, looking at where Bissell is in this race, if he was to finish where he is, he would move on to 143 points. I think he would actually almost move. Well, he won't be on level on points with Moritz. I think Moritz will have more points than him, but both would most certainly close down the gap in the championship to Rapidoc, who is absent this evening. And on lap 14. Busov is behind Law and Dimajester is ahead of him. Bissell ahead of Moritz, so Devons Jr. and Moggs further ahead with MGK coming out of turn 5. Now, when will MGK decide to come in for his first stop? And Vodka is just under 7 seconds behind. Mertens in 14th. So Vodka making the most of the clear track ahead of him. He's run wide though at turn 5, but gets away with it. MGK ahead of Moggs. The gap is 3.5 seconds. Davis Jr. keeping up with them. Morris is closing back in on Professor a little bit now. Francis backing out with Blair and Palermo. MGK makes his way past the Mercedes AMG. That will be Rui, I believe, who's just got past. And Rui's chasing after Glover, who is one of those that made his first mandatory pit stop. We're nearly half an hour into the race now. Things are looking very good for MGK, who can stretch out the margin, which is doing so. It's 3.8 seconds over Moggs. And Moritz is closing back in on Professor now. The gap is 1.7 seconds between those two. We've got Palermo coming into the pits. There is some damage, I have to say, on the front of that Porsche. Now, if he can get out in front of Glover, that would be ideal for him in order to keep track position. So we've got Davis Jr. in third place, but Bissell 4. He's under threat from Morex. So MGK is going down the pit straight now. You can see that Palermo is exiting the pits, so should rejoin. You can see just popping out of the pits there. And MGK will have a little bit of ground to make up before he gets up to the back, but he needs to think about when he's going to be coming in for his first pit stop. And the gap is 4.3 seconds between him and Moggs in P2. And what will decide the championship at the end of the season is the driver who ends up becoming the most consistent out of all of them out there. And Busov has lost another position to Clayt, who's got ahead of him. So Busov is really struggling with the car. He's down to 9th place. So MGK absolutely flying and pushing on. He's going round. And there's number 17 of Palermo up ahead. No need for the blue flags just yet. And Moritz is right on the tail of Bizzle now in the fight for 4th position. Law's dropped back a little bit from Dim and Justin. Plate is closing in. And El Princess comes in for his first pit stop. Vodka trying to lap the, well, looks like the Mercedes AMG of J Prentice. So Vodka trying to make his way through. J Prentice stays out of the way. And it looks like, I'm just looking at the gap at the moment, well, Moggs is now 5.1 seconds off the lead, so MGK absolutely flying on the set of tyres that he's on. And Moritz not able to have a go on for Bizzle just yet. Got Law, Plate and Busov in 7th, 8th and 9th and 10th. El Princess has done his start. Palermo will move in front of him, I think. Although Palermo is going to be just behind, actually. As they come out there, and El Princess stays in front. Palermo's tyres will be more up to temperature though, and he's looking for a move round the outside. We've got the leader coming up behind shortly, so they just need to be very careful with how they play this one. Now on lap 19, MGK performing absolutely beautifully. And Moritz right up behind Bizzle in the fight for 4th. And Moritz looking for a move around the outside. He's looking for it, he goes for it around the outside, and that's a beautiful overtake there from Moritz to get the move done on Bizzle. So Moritz up into 4th place now, ahead of the Audi. Can he go after the top 3? And MGK's lapped El Princess and Palermo. Those two are fighting over their own positions. So not much happening going on circuit at the moment. There's Fuko running in 13th place, who's made up a lot of time after pitting earlier on. So when are we going to see pit stops from the leaders? It looks like Vodka is trying to fend off. That's the number 15 behind him, who's trying to lap him. Oh no, it's not. It's Aldori's actually fighting for position with Vodka. So Aldori trying to make a move, trying to make up for lost time after the maladies he had earlier. Vodka's having to fend him off and not wanting to close in on Mertens at the same time. There's Aldori going for it into turn number 10. Well, that's Vodka running wide, and that should open the door for Aldori to go through, and Aldori does go through. Now remember, Aldori has yet to make a pit stop. Vodka already has, but that error from Vodka won't have done him any favours. And Moritz is pulling away from Provizzle, but only just. There's Blair. Mertens and P12 just running his own race at the moment. Aldori closing in behind. There is 1.7 seconds between those two. Now on lap 22, 37 minutes down, 53 to go. I'm just looking at Freeman at the moment. He is trying to make up for lots of time. Remember, he had to serve that stop and go penalty earlier for speeding in the pit lane, which put him out of touch with the leaders, and he's made up a few positions since then. He's got ahead of Jay Prentice and Andy and Glover and Rui. Glover is in for his final stop now. Busov is in from 9th place for his first stop. Mertens also in, so that releases Aldori and Vuvka. Glover is still in the pits by the looks of it. He's off his box now, so he'll go to the end of the race. So we're approaching the halfway point in this race now. MGK has not stopped yet. Morris holding P2, Davis Jr. and Morris at 3rd or 4th. The Pistol not under threat from those behind, so he's looking in genuine contention for a top 5 finish. Vodka is in P12. The highest of those who have already made a pit stop. As MGK puts the lap on Glover. MGK has not made a stop yet. Glover has done both of his, and he can go to the end. And the battle for 6th is parted up between Dim Adjuster, Law, Clay and Makovsky. As they head through the final chicane before the end of the lap. And we are seeing a change because Dim Adjuster is heading for the pits. So Dim Adjuster in for his first stop. I can see Vodka moving in front of him very shortly. Mertens is ahead of Busov now, so Busov is actually back ahead of Mertens, but Busov has been really struggling throughout this race, really. Fizzle closing back in on Moritz again. So Moritz has been losing time on this lap. The sun is continuously setting here in Barcelona, so we could well be seeing the headlights coming on before the checkered flag as MGK comes in for his first stop now from the race lead. And Muggs will take over as Davis Jr. comes in from 3rd place. Now, where will MGK rejoin in comparison to Vodka, who's already made his first pit stop? I'd be tempted to say that MGK will get out in front of him. And Freeman is also in for his final pit stop. So we'll have a free run to the checkered flag from that. So Vodka coming through now. MGK is still in his box actually. But Vodka will go through, and in fact he's completed an undercut by quite some way. So he's well ahead of MGK. So Vodka has a golden opportunity to win this race now. He's so far out in front of MGK and Devers Jr. And Dim Adjuster, Robinson and Hudson are also in. And these are for the final stops. These are their final stops, I should say. And I think they want to complete their stops before darkness hovers over the circuit. Freeman has done his final stop now, so he'll go to the end. Moggs is in the lead at the moment now. And he's coming in for his first stop now. We could see Moritz into the lead for a lap at least. It looks like Law is making his way into the pits along with Clay. So Makovsky could go up into 4th position, or 3rd I should say. Makovsky comes in, so Blair will go up. Doria will head through as well. Vodka will get ahead of those competitors. Morris has done his stop now. He's left the box. MGK will go through as well, as I thought. Although Moggs is sort of exiting the pit lane, but MGK will go back in front of him. Moggs has exited the pits now as Davis Jr. is coming down the pit straight. I think Moggs is going to stay in front of him, actually. Pushing as hard as he can, but Moggs has got enough momentum to stay in front. So it's advantage Vodka now as he looks to extend the gap for when he comes in for his last stop. The question is, when will he decide to do it? We're now halfway through the race. Moritz is in from the race lead, Befizzle following him behind. And there's see Blair coming in also. So Aldori will have a stint at the front. And expect that stint to be a rather brief one. And it looks like Vuvka is in for his final stop now. So MGK will go back into the lead, well, effectively into the race lead for now. But it's Aldori who is in the lead on track. And it looks like Moggs and Davis Jr. fighting for position. Moritz is he out of the pit lane already? No, he's not. But we want to go to the battle between Moggs and Davis Jr. and there's no change at the moment. Davis Jr. not going for it on this occasion. Moggs holding off the McLaren as they go through turn 3. Moritz rejoins in third place. Aldor is the only driver who has yet to make a pit stop in this race. And Clay is still in the pits at the moment. He's done his final stop now. And he'll be out on his way. Aldori is coming in for his first stop now after 48 minutes of racing. So he's in. MGK will go back into the lead. 8 seconds clear of Moggs in second place, who's still under threat from Davis Jr. No change at the moment between those two. And there's Busov, who's back up there in 7th position at the moment, although he'll get in front of Aldori, who hasn't exited his box yet. No retirements so far, which is good to see. Will Freeman, who's done his 2 stops, who had to serve a 30-second stop-and-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane during his first stop. It's way down in 22nd position, having another race of a gap. Dory is down in 13th place now after his first stop. Some work to do. There's your race leader with 40 minutes to go, completing lap 28. Mike's second, Davis Jr. third. Morris is a further 10 seconds behind, so he's not really challenging those two. I don't expect him to finish any higher than 5th, I would say, at the end of the race. And there's Mertens, who is desperate for a strong result. Mertens having to ride the curves heavily there. And Prophecy's closing in, as is Blair. And there's Aldori right up behind Palermo, who goes to the pits. And now, as we watch Vodka come round the last turn, then he'll go in front. Make use of the clear track. And the temperature, both air and track, has been dropping. So the sun is continuing to set. I can imagine we're going to be under the lights by the time the checker flag is fallen. You'd have thought so anyway. As Palermo completes his stop. He'll be exiting the pit lane now. He's got the 99 coming down the pit straight. And that's Morix, who's a lap ahead of him. We've got a spin at turn 12. It looks like Glover's gone for a spin. And it looks like he's got damage to the front. Is he? No, it looks okay. No, he's got to be careful not to be taking shortcuts around the circuit. He's got away with it there, but that could have been a penalty for track limits for Brandon. Got MGK continuing to blow out his margin. He's 10 seconds over Moggs, but that's not the driver he's fighting with at the moment. The driver he's fighting is Vuvka, who's already made his last pit stop. I think MGK is going to end up finishing second unless Vuvka makes a mistake somewhere. As well as Vuvka, Dim Adjuster's already made his last pit stop. He's 13 seconds behind Vuvka, but I expect MGK to still get out in front of him. I think what MGK needs is a faster pit stop, and he may decide to wait it out until around about 10 minutes to go to make his move, and then he should get out in front of Vuvka, no problem. Moggs and Davis Jr. fighting over P2 on track. Both will be happy with their performances tonight, that's for certain. As Mertens and Blair fight it out, as it looks like Mertens is going to get in front of Blair by the looks of it. Mertens goes through, so Mertens having a decent race of it tonight. Puts himself up into 8th place on the road. There is a car running wide there. That's Aldori, who's trying to get past Bukowski. He's already in front of El Prentice. And we've got a drive-through penalty now for Law for track limits. So that's good news for Mertens, because he'll move up a place. But Law has fallen foul of the law. And he will lose track of Busov in his fight for 6th position. Still have one more pit stop to make, so that's going to put him more out of touch with those, and that's probably his chance of finishing in the top 10 going out of the window. And staying out for now. So Davids Jr. continuing to push. Moggs is dropping further and further back from the leader. And Mertens comes in for his last stop now, as is Mikowski. So we should see Dim Juster, Clay, Hutchison, Robinson and Rui go through, and probably Frank as well. Rui's in for his last pit stop. So Mertens is still in the pits. Mikowski's got out in front of him. And Mertens has exited his box now. And a 30-second stop-and-go penalty has been given to him for speeding in the pit lane. And it's not the first time we've seen that happen to him this season, I don't think. It's a shame. And Law is carrying on for one more lap because he has that drive-through of which he has to take. And now we've got another stop-and-go penalty to be given. It's Rui for the same infringement as Mertens. He's also been caught speeding in the pit lane. So Law needs to take his drive-through penalty at the end of this, otherwise it will be a disqualification if he doesn't do that. Davids Jr. in third, behind Moggs, who's now 11 seconds off the lead. So I think Law may actually keep hold of 7th place, but Aldor will be a lot closer to him. Vodka is ahead of El Prentice. Next one ahead of him is Blair in for 9th place. The gap is 3.6 seconds that he needs to make up. And Law needs to come in now. And he does so. Mertens also in. So it was only 27 seconds the gap. Can Aldori get in front of Law? I don't think he will, you know. It must feel like an eternity having to wander through the pit lane like that. And now it looks like Law's going to end up behind Aldori, actually, thinking of it. So he'll lose a place to him, and he'll lose a place to Blair, and he'll lose a place to Vodka. It's not good news for Vodka, actually. He's going to be held up behind him as they go through turns 1 and 2. And Andy's also in. I don't know if his pit stop damaged, but I think he's already made his last pit stop or so. I don't know if he'll decide to carry on. He has not had a good season so far, as Andy. He's already had 2 DNFs this season. He also missed a couple of rounds. Silverstone and Paul Ricard. Rui has done his stop and go. So all the penalties have been cleared now as Davis Jr. comes in for his last stop now with 29 minutes remaining of this race. And I've got some information from Kevin McKenzie, who hasn't competed for the last few weeks. So he'll be arriving back from Valencia tomorrow, which is good news. As Davis Jr. completes his stop, and he'll rejoin ahead of Aldori in 6th place. Number 16 still in the pits, that's Andy, and I don't think he's got back out yet, so that could well be his race run unless he decides to carry on. Now the gap between MGK in the lead and Muggs in second is 12 seconds now. Davis Jr. looking to complete an undercut on Muggs. How far is he behind Busov? He's a long way behind him, actually, so Davis Jr.'s got an opportunity to make use of the clear track to close in. So on lap 36, MGK continuing to stretch out his lead over Muggs. And Davis Jr.'s pit stop has got him out in front of Vodka, so I think MGK may well be safe from any threat from Vodka or Davis Jr., providing there's no mistakes with his pit stop. Air track temperature continuing to go down. It's 15 degrees. I think Andy's race may well be run here because he's not returned to the circuit. And Freeman is now behind Palermo, although there is Busov in front, who's a lap ahead of Freeman. And Busov has yet to make his last trip to the pits. Alright, he's coming in now, as is Morex. So Morex and Busov are going to be heading in. Now I expect no more than 10 seconds of a pit stop here for Morex before he exits his box, and there we go. And accept the same kind of pit stop for Bousov as well. So Moritz will rejoin behind Devis Jr. So Moritz is going to be leaving the pits very, very shortly. He'll be out in front of Blair, no problem. So Moritz rejoins behind Papizel in 4th place, but Papizel has still yet to make his last stop in this race. .6 seconds is the gap between Palermo in 18th, sorry, and Freeman in 19th. You can see the front headlights are coming on. And there are 7 drivers yet to make their last pit stops. MGK is one of them, of course. Brazil on his own in 3rd. He's trying to make most of the clear track as well in the 303 McLaren. And Vodka is now right behind Blair in his fight with him. As they come out of the chicane, and into the pit straight they come. This is looking very, very good. So Vodka has got a good chance of finishing on the podium. I'll say he's got a good chance. He is stopped behind those who have yet to make their last trip to the pits. There's El Prentice, who's got one more pit stop to make as well. In regards to the championship as it stands, if it was to remain as it is, although if MGK was to win the race and he's already got the pole position point, he'd move on to 145. He'd move up. He won't move up to 2nd because of where Moritz is expected to finish. Moritz is expected to still be in 2nd place. The gap would come down considerably over Rapid Duck in the lead. There's a long way to go yet. I expect the TK Rex Motorsport team to pull further clear in the race for that championship. As Blair comes in for his last stop, so that releases Vodka. "20 minutes to go." And MGK's in for his last stop now as well, so we could well see Moggs in the lead for a little bit before he makes his move. MGK in his box. MGK has done his stop now. He's exited the box and is going down the pit lane. I think he'll rejoin in front of Davis Jr. He's only getting to the chicane, so MGK will rejoin in front of him. And he's well and truly safe, so there's only 5 drivers yet to make their last trip to the pits. Moggs in the lead for now. On that 40. Going through turn 10, turn 11, and then the right-hander of 12. And now we've got a drive-through penalty for Frank for track limits. So Frank will be on his way into the pits within the next 3 laps or so. Make that 2 laps now. He's just crossed over the line. You are allowed to cross over the line twice before you decide to head for the pits. And as it stands, I think Frank's going to lose 2 positions. Maybe even 3 if he's unlucky. As we see Busov and Clay fight it out for 11th position. So these two, well, Busov was fighting for the lead earlier, but his contact with Moritz put paid to that. So Clay not able to fight his way through. Glover's in there as well, who is a lap down on these guys. I've got Hutchison and Robinson in 13th and 14th. We've not seen much from these two during the course of tonight. But Bizzle in for his last stop now from P2, so MGK will go back up. Davis Jr. and Aldori also going through. Moritz will go past, Laurel will go through. Vivka will go through, no problem as well. And Al Prentice is coming in for his last stop. So we've only got 3 drivers left now in this race yet to make their second and last stops. Dory ahead of Law. And with, oh, that's Frank, who's still yet to serve his drive-through. And Moggs is in for his final stop now, so MGK will move back into the lead. So Moggs comes in, stops at the box. And I think he'll get out in front of Davis Jr. There he goes. It wasn't a long stop by any means. And Davis Jr. is coming into the last chicane, but I think he's going to be too far back here from Moggs, who is deactivating his pit lane speed limiter now. So Moggs rejoins in second place, on course for a good result. Get his championship back on track. And Davis Jr. under threat from Aldori, who is one of 2 drivers yet to complete their second mandatory stop. Law is ahead of Vuvka as they tussle over 6th place on track, although Vuvka will get in front once Law does pit in for the last time. And Frank is in to get his drive-through penalty served. Did he slow down in time in the box? Not 100% sure. Blair will go through. Makovsky will go through. Al Prentice should do as well. And Frank doesn't look like he's interested in carrying on, because you'd have thought he'd just go down the pit lane. Actually, I think he's forgotten that it's actually a drive-through and not a not a stop and go. So he's lost even more time. He'll go out in front of Freeman. So Frank down to 17th. But there's MGK, only 5 seconds in front of Moggs now. And remember, the gap was something like 13 seconds before the two drivers came in for their second stops. Moggs continuing to push. And Aldori's in front of Davis Jr. on track. Moritz up there, so Moritz, we expect him to be in 4th place by the end of this race. Dimajos is ahead of Proviso, and it looks like Clay is right behind the Audi, so Proviso is seemingly struggling. Davis Jr. will be very happy with his podium finish, his previous best result. Had been a 2nd place finish in round 1 at the Hungaroring. He's missed 1 race already this season, that was at Paul Ricard last week. The 3rd place finish would elevate his points total massively. He'd move in front of Bizzle, ahead of Law, ahead of Hutchinson. And probably ahead of Vuvka. I don't think he'll get in front of Vuvka, but he'll definitely get ahead of Ray Thomas and Will Freeman. So he'll probably be up to like 4th place in the championship after this race as it stands. Now, Aldori still yet to make his last stop. He carries on for the time being. Now Law, who's already served a drive-through penalty for track limits. He could have been in the lead of this race had it not been for that. Although having said that, he's still got his last pit stop to take, which will drop him heavily down the order. Could fall as far down as 14th place or 15th even. And MGK, who holds the fastest up of the race so far, he did that time on lap 27. And with less than 12 minutes to go, I would say we are looking at around 7 more laps of racing here. So we're looking at around 51 laps. Bissell ahead of Clay, he's ahead of Busov, and these will get in front of Law and Aldori. It's been a nice tussle between those lot. Just the one retirement so far in this race, that's Andy, who parked up in the pits. Going to be having it off somewhere on track. But we are seeing a change in position potentially as Moritz looks to the outside of Davis Jr. here to go defensive. Now, can these two keep it clean? Moritz has already been involved in a collision earlier on with Busov. Now down the hill they come. Headlights are on. It's not quite dark yet, and there's a 6, 7, 8 off circuit. Trying to see who that is. That's Jay Prentice, who's off the track. He's been in the gravel. Stays out of the way of the leaders, so I think that's Jay Prince has been like to the second time. We've got another driver going off track. That's the 17. And that is Palermo, who's had a shocker of a... I think the 678 of Jay Prentice has gone off again. I don't know what on earth he's doing. But it looks like he's had enough. Now the stewards may have a word with him afterwards in terms of driving standards. I don't know why he's parked up there. I hope he gets moving soon though, this Jay Prentice, because shouldn't really be parking up there at all. And Aldari's in for his final stop now from third place. That will release Davis Jr. and Morex. And Law will do the same. So that's all the pit stops completed now with 9 minutes remaining. So dim adjuster should get in front of both. We'll go up into 6th position. So Hodgson and Robinson will go through as well. Now what's going on with Jay Prentice, because he's stopped there on the exit of turn 9, he hasn't got moving. I don't know if there's been a connection issue or something, but that's not really a pleasing sight. So the gap is 4.6 seconds between MGK and Moggs. So MGK can afford to just take his foot off the gas a little bit if he needs to, not push the car too much. So lap 46 completed, and there are 5 laps remaining of this race now. Now when the clock reaches 0, whatever lap the leader is on will be their final lap. So I can say that Aldari and Law have rejoined in 12th and 13th places respectively. And Jay Prentice is finally back in the pits now, and he's out of the race. I want to go back to the battle between these 4. Dim Adjuster's clear of these 3. Provisional under threat from Clay and Busov as they fight over position. Busov looking to the inside of Clay as they go into turn 1. And Busov is still going side by side as they go through turn 2. Busov will have the inside line for turn 3 and he goes through. Now will he cover the Mercedes AMG off, or is he running too deep though? I think he's run too deep. Clay will get back on the inside. Busov stays to the outside, stays within the chart limits. He's very robust, but that was fair racing between those two. As Busov looks to fight back, and he's got past. So Busov up into 8th position. No problem. Very clean between those two. Hudson in 10th, Robinson in 11th. Aldari closing in behind in the Audi. And Freeman is closing in on Frank in the fight for 17th position, which is not really a pleasing sight. It's been a lacklustre race for Freeman, whose race was already compromised when he had to come in for a stop and go for speeding in the pit lane. So it looks like the top 18 will finish on the lead lap. What a race it's been from MGK. From start to finish. So Robinson is not looking to have a go on his teammate just yet. I think they'll just be happy to get some good points. Not long to go now in this one. So 3 laps to go in this. Marks in P2, then we've got Davis Jr., Moritz, Vodka, Jimmy Juster in a fine 6th place for Fizzle, Busov and Clay fighting again for 8th place. Oh, that's going a bit too deep, and Clay nearly ran into the rear of Fizzle, and Busov is able to keep hold of his position ahead of him. That was so nearly contact in the rear of the Audi. And that's Hudson ahead of Robinson and Aldori. We've got a drive-through penalty now for Makovsky, who is in 15th place as we speak. Track limits is caught up with him, and he'll have to serve that before the race is over. Now we're watching Aldori as the 2 BMWs going to combat. Aldori may go in between them. Oh, there's a collision between the 2 BMWs! And it's Hutchinson who's gone into the wall by the looks of it. No, it's Robinson. So just like in Kyalami a couple of weeks ago, Robinson had been sent into the barrier through contact from behind. And that's Robinson's race pretty much done, to be honest with you. I think Hutchinson may as well just go past him, because Robinson's got considerable amount of damage on the bonnet. That was the last thing they needed. I think Law has already got past them as well, so I think the BMW drivers can only have themselves to blame. As Mikosi comes in, I think he's lost a few positions now. A total of 3 positions, so that's him down to 18th place. We've got Frank and Freeman closing up behind El Prentice with just a few laps to go, so both will need to make their moves very, very quickly. They may make up another position, because Robinson's got that damage and Hutchinson is just happy to sit in behind, but he's got Blair waiting behind to get past both of them. So if I was Hutchinson, I'd just go past Robinson and not compromise his own race just because he's made contact with him. And Blair waiting behind. And Prentice is another 22 seconds behind this lot, so it looks like Hutchinson's trying to fend off Blair. Goes to the outside. Now they need to keep it clean here. Looks like they're going to go past Robinson here, and Blair's got past both of them. Hudson not going past his teammate. He clearly feels guilty for the collision they've had together. They were running a clean race up until when they made contact. The MGK is about to start the final lap of this race now. What a race from MGK through. It's been a little bit fortuitous for him. Well, he's had a lot of things go his way in this race, with collisions and drivers having problems as well, like Aldori, for instance, who dropped back after stopping on circuit with some kind of technical issue. Busov is behind Pavizel. Dimitrov is in 6th position. Vodka as well. Oops. And we just clicked the drive button by accident. Do apologise for that. But MGK on his way to victory. And Moggs will be delighted with his second place, as will Davis Jr. in third. It's been a phenomenal race by MGK standards. And another different race winner. 6th different pole sitter, 6th different race winner. Although Rapidoc has already won 2 races, so it's actually a 5th different race winner from 6. But he's going to take the checker flag first here tonight in this 90-minute special. MGK just has 3 more corners to get through. And he's giving himself a chance in the championship through this. MGK in the Ferrari wins in Barcelona in the FRL. Taco Tuesday, 5 seconds in front of Moggs, who will cross over the line in 2nd place. Davis Jr. will complete the podium in front of Morex. So more points for those two. Fuvka some way behind in 5th. He'll be satisfied with that. And it seems like Pavizel has dropped back heavily on the last lap behind Busov and Klate. And Aldori looks to be getting in front of him there in the number 15 Audi. He goes to the outside and he's got past. So Pavizel loses 3 positions, although it looks like Busov has spun at turn 12. So whilst Pavizel lost places, Busov has lost places of his own. I don't know if he's had a coming together with Klate, but he's lost time and places on the last lap as a result of it. So Dimitrov will hold on just in front of Klate for 6th place. And Pavizel, or Aldori will be 8th, Pavizel 9th. Busov will be 10th in front of Law, who will just hold off Blair. And we've got Robinson remaining in front of his teammate despite their collision. So they will be 13th and 14th. And it looks like Freeman's got past Frank. Can he get past Prentice with these last few corners to get through? I don't think he can. He may make a dive for it. But no, I think he's going to have to settle for 16th place. So Prentice will be 15th, Freeman 16th, and Frank 17th. But there's your race winner. It's MGK here in Barcelona. Moggs coming through to finish 2nd. Ahead of Davis Jr. in 3rd. Moritz 4th, ahead of Vodka and Dimitrov getting in front of Klate at the end. Aldori ahead of Pavizel, Busov running out the top 10. We've got Law and Blair in 11th and 12th places, ahead of Robinson and Hutchison in 13th and 14th places. And we've got L. Prentice and Freeman and Frank, the last of those on the lead lap. Then we've got Makovsky and Palermo, who had lacklustre races tonight. Glover coming home in 20th place, ahead of Mertens, who was 21st. Rui, the last of the finishers, in 22nd. Jay Prentice didn't finish, and neither did Andy. In regards to the championship then, with MGK picking up 41 points, that moves him onto 145, with Moritz coming home in 4th place. That nets him 34 points. That will move him onto 158, which keeps him in 2nd place in the championship battle. So he is now 27 points off the top, with 4 races to go. In the team's championship, Moritz and Far Club for Fizzle has kept TK Rex in the lead over Promotion Motorsport, and Tuga Racing have dropped back even further now. They are behind FRL Admin Elite Motorsports, and I can imagine they are behind B3 Racing as well. The championships will update on the Formula Racing League website before next week's round at Alton Park. Thank you very much for watching us, and before we end tonight, we do send our thoughts to the family and friends of Chris Jones, who we sadly lost last night. And the FRL has paid tribute. A lot of the drivers tonight have paid tribute with running black and white liveries on their cars. Most of them did. And the 24 drivers involved in the lap parade between practice and qualifying to pay tribute to a beloved man who dedicated a lot of his spare time in racing with this lot. Thank you very much for watching us, and we'll do it again next week. Do make sure you like and subscribe as well, in case you haven't already done so. I'll do it again next week. Rest in peace, Chris Jones. I'm Tom Cairns, and I'll speak to you again soon when the Formula Racing League returns.